Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to 7.05 Italian Renaissance Painting, Part 1. The Italian Renaissance, the High Renaissance marked a rebirth of art and culture in Italy and the rest of Europe. Italian Renaissance painters and sculptors drew inspiration from classical art and literature and developed a new, lifelike artistic style. During the 16th century, Italy was the center of the artistic growth, intellectual thought, and religious influence in Europe. Artists took early Renaissance discoveries and classical ideas to new heights during the High Renaissance. With the invention of the printing press, books became readily available and new ideas flourished. An educated class emerged and embraced learning and studying the classical texts of the past. As travel became easier and explorers journeyed to distant lands, people were exposed to new cultures, and as the intellectual middle class developed, many became patrons of the arts and eased the financial dependence of artists on the church. Wealthy families like the Medici controlled Florence, Venice, and other northern cities on the Italian peninsula. Small city-states competed for power in the southern regions. In the central regions, the Roman Catholic Church controlled much of the wealth, politics, and art form its base in Rome. Humanism. The Italian Renaissance witnessed a new focus on human achievements and the place of humans in the world. We call the study of human concerns, thoughts, virtues, and deeds humanism. With new confidence, artists created works that showed the importance of humans and worldly matters. Some artists became masters of music, poetry, science, and mathematics. Today we call such an accomplished person as a Renaissance man or Renaissance woman. During the Middle Ages, the main purpose of art was to communicate religious messages and ideas. During the Renaissance, religion continued to play an important role in life and art, but there were a new focus on the here and now. Humanist thought and changed the art of Europe. One of the best-known painters of the Renaissance is Leonardo da Vinci. He was born in a small town of Vinci, Italy in 1452. At the age of 15, he moved with his father to Florence and worked as an apprentice to the artist Andrea del Verrocchio. After about 7 years of study, Leonardo left to pursue his own career as an artist. Leonardo had an active mind, passion, and interest in math and science. He explored anatomy, engineering, geology, zoology, botany, and mechanics. These intellectual pursuits helped him understand the world in new ways. He made sketches of his explorations and ideas and produced more than 7,000 pages of notes and drawings. Painters of the Italian Renaissance. Virgin of the Rocks is the first painting that Leonardo completed after he moved to Milan around 1483. Historians debate the meaning of the work, but they agree that it depicts the Virgin Mary and baby Jesus and St. John the Baptist as an infant. Many historians believe the painting represents the first meeting between John and Jesus. Leonardo arranged the figures in a pyramid configuration and gives the painting balance and stability. Hand gestures tell the story and create movement in the composition. John, lower left, holds out his hand in prayer towards Jesus, who responds with a gesture blessing. The angel Uriel, seated behind Jesus, points a finger at John, while Mary embraces John with one hand and hovers above the group, reaching out towards Jesus. Painters of the Italian Renaissance. Leonardo was interested in the atmosphere's effect of faraway objects. He painted distant objects as he saw them, less detailed, paler, and bluer than nearby objects. We call the method of implying distance atmospheric perspective. Leonardo's used a technique called circuito, or contrast of light and dark, to give two-dimensional figures a sense and shape of form. He created feeling of mystery in his paintings by gradually blending colors and values so that his figures have no crisp lines, edges, or outlines, and appear to melt into the shadows. Leonardo also developed a technique called sfumato, which means lost, evaporated, or shaded in Italian, and it has the connotation of smoky. He was able to create the effect by using oil paint and dried slowly, allowing him to blend colors and make gradual changes from light to dark. As a dedicated student of anatomy and physiology, Leonardo made hundreds of anatomical sketches of the human body. You can see how he understood anatomy by his accurate representation of proportion of movement in Virgin of the Rocks. Notice his masterful depiction of Mary's hand reaching forward into space, a treatment of foreshortening. Yet Leonardo did more than paint figures with realistic accuracy. He gave Mary, Jesus, and John perfect proportion of his vision of ideal beauty and expression. Unlike the artists of the Middle Ages who placed Christian figures on heavenly gold backgrounds, Leonardo expressed humanist thought of the Virgin on the Rocks by placing them in an earthly setting. Another iconic Renaissance artist, Michelangelo, was born in 1475 in a small mountain village east of Florence. As a teenager, he was invited to live with the most powerful Medici family. During that time, he studied sculpture and classical philosophy at age 21. He moved to Rome and began his living as a sculptor. In Rome, Pope Julius II commissioned lavish artworks to adorn chapels and the homes of clergy in the Vatican to promote his imperial vision for the Roman Catholic Church. Artists created magnificent paintings and sculptures, and architects redesigned a new St. Peter's Basilica, the shining cathedral of the Vatican. The Pope summoned Michelangelo to carve his grand tomb for his St. Peter's, but he changed his mind and asked him to paint the ceiling of the Vatican, the Sistine Chapel, instead. At first, Michelangelo turned him down, explaining that his passion was sculpture, not painting. Eventually, he agreed to undertake the monumental task of painting the chapel. Imagine painting while perched atop a rickety platform more than 60 feet above ground. Your task: to cover hundreds of ceilings with frescoes showing hundreds of figures, but you have to work fast because the paint dries almost instantly, so you work on one small area at a time. Over a 4-year period, Michelangelo did just that, covering thousands of square feet of the ceiling of the Vatican Sistine Chapel with more than 350 figurines that tell the story of the creation, fall, and the salvation of the human race. He even painted the framework to look like marble columns and the other architectural elements. Painters of the Italian Renaissance. Creation of Adam, with Michelangelo placed in the center of the Sistine Chapel ceiling, is one of the most iconic images in the world. It's a symbolic image. Michelangelo combines the classical tradition of depicting an interaction between pagan gods and humans with a defiantly biblical theme, the movement that God brings Adam to life with the touch of his finger. You can look through the slideshow of the presentation here. And here there's a little video you can watch about it. Raphael, another Italian Renaissance artist, Raffaello Sanzio, better known as Raphael, was born in 1483 and spent his youth in the small hill town of Urbino. He learned to paint from his father and later studied with the master artist Perugino. In his early 20s, Raphael traveled to Florence, where he established a name for himself as a skilled painter. His reputation spread to Rome, and Pope Julius II called him to be an official painter of the Vatican. Raphael blended into the best Renaissance techniques artists of Perugino, Leonardo, and Michelangelo in his own beautiful, elegant style in The Marriage of the Virgin. Raphael demonstrated his skill of the Renaissance painter. He placed the biblical figures in the modern Italian Renaissance setting to keep up with his period's focus on humanism. He used Sciarrocchio, accurate but ideal proportion and beauty in the pyramid configuration. Marriage of the Virgin. Raphael's teacher, Perugino, created a painting called Christ Delivering the Keys to the Kingdom of St. Petersburg. Perugino's sense of greatly influenced Raphael in The Marriage of the Virgin. Raphael used similar composition and some of the same technique that Perugino did in Christ Delivering the Keys to the Kingdom of St. Petersburg. Explore Rachel and the Perugino in the next activity on the next screens. So here they are compared. Very similar. Renaissance artists such as Leonardo studied classical art and humanist thought. They made figures look lifelike, and they placed the figures in earthly settings. They also used a variety of techniques to create paintings that looked natural and had depth. Medieval artists, on the other hand, focused on Christian themes and created paintings that honored holy figures such as Mary or Jesus. Medieval figures were typically flat and stylized rather than realistic. Renaissance and medieval painters used different conventions to communicate their message. What conventions did the painters of these two works use, and how do they affect the paintings? That's it for that lesson. I'll see you guys in the next video.